Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there. I cannot believe that we're already in the back half of 2024.
Are you kidding me?
But here we are. Before you know it, the calendar will be turning again, and that means we are already getting ready for 2025 conferences, and one that I'm personally very excited to attend again is the Insights EDU Conference. If you care at all about growing enrollment and building a student-centered higher ed experience, you really should be at this conference. Registration is now open, so secure your spot while early bird pricing is still available. Visit insightsedu.com for more information and to register. That's visit insightsedu.com for more information and to register.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and today we are extremely excited to announce our paid subscription service. By subscribing today, you will get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content, and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Solucio back with you on another episode here, and I have to mention to you all again, and I will probably for a while until it sinks in. You know, we started EdUp editorials now on our website. That means we're going to publish articles that you write out to our worldwide community that we have developed over nearly 5 years here at the EdUp Experience. Why are we doing that? Well, I just think there's thank you for asking, by the way, whoever submitted that question. Why are we starting EdUp editorials? Well, the reason is because there's a lot of great writing out there that never sees its way into trade publications. I mean, there's only so many trade publications out there. There's limited space. Everybody's trying to say something, and you just go, there's some good stories, and there's some good reporting, no doubt. But where's the grainy stories? Where are the messy stories a little bit that we want to tell about higher ed? Where are those alternative perspectives? Well, we want to use our platform and the audience to give people an opportunity to get their stuff published. And that's EdUp editorials, and you could submit your work at edupexperience.com. And that concludes this edition of the self-promotion, ladies and gentlemen. But really, it's to celebrate your work. I may put a thing or two up there, but really, we want to get your perspectives. So sit down and write me something. Write Elvin something. Write something original. Tell us about what's going on at your institution, something that you're launching, something that you're doing, something that you think the higher ed community needs to know about, and we're going to push it out there. As I transition to this podcast episode from the soapboxing, it's also important to remember to celebrate what we do, right? It's hard work. People got students on campus now. It's the beginning of the term. Financial aid is delayed again and again and again, and you got a package and all this stuff going on. But we still have students on the ground. We still have students online, and they're still learning. So we're doing good work. And we're going to talk about some of that good work, but I'm going to bring in my guest host first. She is absolutely outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, she's Dr. Jody Blinko. She is the Vice President of Enrollment Management Consulting at Education Dynamics. Jody, what's going on?
Thank you, Joe. I'm so excited to be here. Looking forward to this conversation with Kate. And as you said, just celebrating all the good work that's happening out there in higher ed. So thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you're here, and you made the ultimate co-hosting rookie mistake. Even though you didn't say her first name, you revealed the guest's first name, Kate, before I introed her. And we, of course, this is a very common mistake for my first time co-hosts, which makes total sense, right? Because
You're never going to have me back again, Joe. I've already made a mistake in the first 30 seconds.
Boy, you know how many mistakes I make? I couldn't even remember what I was doing here as I was talking about EdUp editorials. But last time I saw you was at Insights EDU 2024.
Yes.
Right? 2024. Yes. And we were in Phoenix, right? Does that sound right?
I think so. I think we were. Yeah, we were. Yes.
Yeah. And you were a guest. I was interviewing you about enrollment.
Yes, you were. And the work that we're doing with skill development and coaching frontline staff at the youth school. We were talking about that.
Yeah, you do good work. And I know that, enrollment continues to be one of those areas that we all are concerned about in higher education. Yes. Get them in and then keep them, because it's a whole lot easier or more worthwhile to keep one student, because you got to recruit two for every one that you lose. I know somebody that's going to tell us more about the challenges and wins in higher education, and that's our guest. And you know her by Kate right now. All you know is what Jody said.
Let me laugh. See if you can guess who it is.
Maybe by her voice, you already know. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is. She's Dr. Kate Smith. She is the president at Rio Salado College. Kate, welcome to an EdUp microphone. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I just love that you get positive messages out there and you talk about what are some of the really good things going on. So I couldn't be more excited to be here with you and Jody. Thank you so much for having me.
You know, I will say that having you on right at the beginning before we started recording, and you were talking to Jody and I was talking to you and your energy was off the charts. This is what I was thinking.
I'm going to hang out with you until the end of time.
Yeah, so
I
love it. Level set for us, Kate. We always like to hear your perspective on, Rio Salado College. Where are you? What do you do? And who do you serve?
Oh, great question. So Rio Salado College, don't worry, I'm not going to talk for 30 minutes. When I start with, was founded in 1978, but it was founded as a college without walls. So I share that because the college itself, in its DNA, in its fabric, has always been dedicated to finding new ways of serving, of opening the doors to higher education to people who can't access it in any type of traditional way. So that's just who we are as an institution. What that led us to is being serving students online in the mid-90s, so a very early participant in online education and really growing that expertise. We were the first school in Arizona to offer dual enrollment, and so we've really kind of grown that population. We started offering education to our incarcerated students back in 1983, and we do that via correspondence. We do it in person. And it's one of the things I really want to talk about is we just are launching our first laptop coursework in the prison. So we're really excited about that. That's a huge shift in the landscape and will be super instrumental for our incarcerated students. And then we've always been known for working with our business partners. And so we have a lot of coursework that we do actually on location at industries around the Valley. By the way, we're located in Tempe, Arizona, and you're muted, Joe.
I'm muted, so I always keep in my mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. That's real. I put myself on mute to take a bite of my apple. I chewed it while on mute, and then I started talking when I had, gotten. It's fine. Somebody whispered you want to talk about something, the incarcerated students. I don't know who whispered that.
Yes, I don't know either, but I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, Jody. Maybe you whispered that. And I should say, so we serve about 40,000 learners every year. Just to finish that out, and we have a very large population. We serve the largest population of GED preparation and HSE students, as well as English as a second language students across the Valley. So back to the incarcerated students, it is really, so with our incarcerated students, they often involuntarily are moved from one prison to another at any point in time. And so you can imagine if they're enrolled and seeking education while they're incarcerated, that then they get moved and they're cut off from the school they were enrolled in, the programs, et cetera. So being able to offer online access, and what we're working on right now is actually a digital equity grant. So with 5 other colleges across the state to be able to put broadband in prisons across the state, which will then allow our incarcerated students to complete what they start, even when they get switched from one county to another, one prison to another. And we all know that, that you can read the research, the data, that the biggest impact on reducing rates of recidivism is education, right? Because our students can then, kind of come out of, once they're released, they can get a job right away. They have the skills, they have a credential with them, and that's what keeps them then being able to be a great contributing part of their family, of their community. So it's really powerful. I would love to give you a couple examples, but I'll see if you want to go
think,
there. Are you
Jody, before I kick it to you, because Kate, you seem very passionate about this. Where is this feeling coming from? Why is this such an important issue for Rio Salado?
So I'll give you, if you were to if you were to watch a documentary by Road Trip Nation called Being Free, you will see one of our students in that documentary. And it is about formerly incarcerated students or formerly incarcerated and kind of their journey upon release. This student, Cordero Holmes, he would talk anywhere, anytime. He's amazing. He said to me once, he said to me once, we were talking, and I was just asking more about him and his background. And, he had spent 10 years incarcerated, several of them in solitary confinement. And so we're just saying, how did you get into education? Tell me more about your story. So he was sharing that when he grew up, where he grew up, that education was just not something that was even considered an option, right? There's not the trust in education. It's not what's going to happen in the future. He never, ever, ever thought it would be for him. And he said, but when I ended up in prison and education was in prison, or college, he called it college. He said college was never going to be for him. But when he ended up in prison and college was in prison, he said, oh, well, maybe it is for me. And so he began his journey 4.0. I don't know if you know what a Jack Kent Cooke scholarship is. It's one of the most prestigious in the countries. He was awarded that. He's now entered a master's program. And when you spend time with some of our incarcerated students and you hear what they've overcome and what they've faced, it's unimaginable to many. And yet you see them doing it. And then you see the good that they bring to our world. That's why I'm so passionate, Joe. It's just, it is amazing. Sorry, I said amazing again, but I might say it a lot. But when it comes to our students.
Because you say it so well.
I know. Sorry. Amazing.
Jody, over to you.
Kate, it's interesting. I did some consulting work with an organization called the Formerly Incarcerated Graduate Network about a couple of years ago. And part of their mission was to partner with institutions to help them figure out how to develop a program for incarcerated students, because they themselves had gone through that journey. And so I really relate to, what you're sharing of some of the stories and just experiences that formerly incarcerated students have gone through, and the stories of where they are today and the influence that they're able to have. I myself, when I was working with them, was just blown away, and so it's so powerful to hear that those student journeys firsthand and understand the impact that education has for them. So my question to you is, knowing that working with this group of students at Rio Salado has been, would you say it was the 80s that you all started?
Yes, 1983 is when we started working with incarcerated students.
So this has been in motion for some time. If there's someone out there listening that works for an institution that says, yeah, we've been trying to go down this path. We've really been trying to find our place in working with incarcerated students. Obviously, there are challenges in any, setting up any new pathway for students. But what would your words of wisdom be on the challenges that you're going to face, how not to give up, and just best practices on how to really reach and support and lift up incarcerated students through education.
So first I would say, I love this question, Jody. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would say, please reach out. It's kate.smith@riosalado.edu, and I will put you in touch with the experts, right, who can just support you in any way. We just believe we are all in this together, and that what our competition is the forces that keep people out of higher ed, right? That's our competition. So we love to help anybody, support anybody who wants to either get started or has any bumps in the road, because we've probably experienced all of them. I would say, building a really strong relationship with your Department of Corrections at the state level is fundamentally important, right? Because that's where so many of the key decisions, breakdowns can happen. Having state level support through the Department of Corrections is really key to being able to make the progress. Like I said before, about being able to now finally offer online in prisons it's just huge.
Yeah.
So that's one. The federal government is now rolling out the PEP program around Pell. Pell for incarcerated students. So the second chance Pell is now evolving, which I think that's going to be another area that takes a lot of, finesse at an institution to just really get all the regs, figure out how to do this. How do you support incarcerated students in that way? So would love to just share, any of those types of, there's so many bumps that people will hit. Don't give up. It's worth it. Meet those students. Go talk to your incarcerated students. You will be moved to your core and just want to advocate with everything in you. I mean, kind of like all of our students, I'm not going to lie.
Right.
I am a little biased to all of our students, but that population, they work so hard. And we just want to celebrate them for what they do and what they're able to accomplish.
As you transition, you love all your students, and I know you do, and you serve about 40,000. You said 40,000 students over a year. That's a lot of students.
Yeah.
And I know that they're taking education multiple ways. Some are in and out, some are continuous, some want short courses, some want longer courses, some want a traditional degree, some want a certificate or a credential. That's a lot to manage when community colleges are really a fascinating part of higher ed because of the number of student types. Each one gets marketed to different ways. Each one responds to different messaging. Each one likes to take things a different way. Can you talk about how do you keep it all together, especially when you have ratios you have to maintain? You have to have enough students in a class. You want to make sure you have enough advisors, enough faculty. It's a lot.
And we do it at a very low price point, right? Which adds to that whole dynamic of being able to make sure you have enough of those wraparound supports, when your tuition is at a very low price point. So I really appreciate that. Joe, I guess I have a few immediate thoughts. One, because we were a very early entrant into the online education, we built our whole online side of the house with those wraparound student services, student supports, so remote advising as well as in-person advising, right? We have an instructional help desk. So if a student can't reach their faculty member, they have this instructional help desk they can call. We have a technology help desk 24/7. We have library services 24/7, because we know that for our online students, and it's roughly 25,000 of them, the highest access time is 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That is the highest time that they are in that learning management system, which speaks volumes, right? It tells you these are busy people working, often parents, etc. And this provides them the access that they can't have any other way. The other thing that we do, Joe, that's a little unique and not done most places, is we developed our online system as an asynchronous model, which allows us to have students start almost any week of the year. So if you want to go sign up a class if you want to go take psychology, you can sign up and start on Monday or the next Monday. And it also allows us, with the way that we've structured with our adjunct faculty, that we can run a class with one student because of the way that we've structured our system. So we really built it for that ultimate, what do these learners need to be able to access higher education? Back to your point about so many different students, we hire really good people at Rio who really are so good at what they do and so smart and work so incredibly hard. I, I'm a president who really speaks from my heart, honestly, and I will just I brim a little with pride and excuse that, but it's just really true. We
Let's
people
not excuse that here at the EdUp Experience.
Okay, all right, let's celebrate it. Okay, let's celebrate it. Sorry, woo. Okay, but we invest in our people, right? So we have a culture that also really supports us. People come to community colleges across the nation, not just Rio, but across the nation, because they're motivated by the mission generally, right? Generally people who attract to a community college, they are there because they feel like it's a calling. They want to be a part of that movement. They just believe in it so deeply. So when you have a college community that kind of comes from that lens, and then you build a culture, a really healthy, strong culture. Like one of our things is I tell people when I hire that humor is an important part of our work, right? Because if you're working as hard as you're working here, you need to be having some fun at the same time, or you'll just burn out, and that's not good for anybody. So it's honestly, we've also built a lot of our own proprietary systems because we didn't have access to what we needed to make all of these different types of students work, right? Like the systems just didn't exist that we needed. So we've built a lot of systems that help us support so many different types of learners at scale. We also just started offering bachelor's degrees. And this was huge in the state of Arizona because the legislature in Arizona passed, I think it was Senate Bill 1453, under then Governor Doug Ducey in 2021. So the Maricopa Community College system and Rio in particular got busy and, developing those bachelor's degrees. So we rolled out our first 2 bachelor's degrees in fall of 23 and had 2 students who actually completed in spring of 24 and were the first bachelor's awarded in the state of Arizona ever. And I think and I bring it up because I think, to your point, community college is like, really? You're going to do bachelor's degrees too on top of everything else? And there could be a lot of good debate and conversation around, well, are you competing with 4 years? Well, are you getting away from your mission about access? So I'd like to talk about it because if I can, I'd like to share a quote. I actually brought a quote from a student, our first graduate. Can I just read her words to you?
I told you have the whole mic.
Okay, all right. I'm trying not to embarrass myself. So this student, her name is Rhiannon Heller, and you can read about her. We have a blog written about her, about all of our students, each of these students I've mentioned. But we were doing a story together, and this is what she said. I wasn't considering going back to school at all. I mean, I knew that financially it was going to be such a huge barrier for me to be able to live and for my family to live. And so I was pretty much just wait until a miracle fell from the heavens. And that miracle was Rio getting its Public Safety Administration program. And I share that quote because it touches my heart, I guess, but it touches my heart so much because it explains, no, we're not, this is a student population that is never going to go get a bachelor's degree, right? We're not competing again with other institutions. This is somebody who the model that we have lets her go to school, and the price point we do it at lets her access a bachelor's degree, which of course, the lifetime earnings is so much greater once you get either an associate's degree, and then it gets so much greater when you hit a bachelor's degree. So that's all.
That's great. And Jody, kind of going back to where Kate started, she talked about enrollment, And I do, when I talk to a lot of schools like you do. It's like, well, we need to get enrollment up. And I go, well, have more start dates. It's like the first thing I would do, just like add more start dates. But then their brain breaks because it's like, oh no, the academic model and this and that. So a thing or two there, don't you, Jody?
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting that you went there, Joe, because as Kate was sharing, the thought popped in my head and Kate, you articulated so well the wraparound student journey that your team has put a lot of thought, energy, and effort in to be able to scale that at the volume that you do. And so it got me thinking about institutions that I talk with every day that say, we want to increase enrollment. Joe, back to your point. And then we start talking about the student journey and the support and the nurturing and that early, really before the decision is even made, helping them think through. There's 4 main fears that usually come up. Time, how am I going to do this? How long is it going to take me? How much is it going to cost me? Money, how am I going to pay for it? Value, what's the return on my investment? And then ability, can I do this? Academically, can I make this happen, right? So those 4 things are just running on a loop in this prospective student's mind. And even once they become a student, that doesn't shut down. So going back to your comment around this 24/7 technical support and then the other support mechanisms that you all have built up, my question goes back to how institutions really struggle with being able to, one, wrap their mind around that's even a factor in increasing enrollment and keeping students. But the question is, I know it's a really long-winded way to get there. How do you get there? How do you really tap into understanding what is it our students need? And maybe institutions know that, but then I think the issue really becomes, well, we don't have enough staff. We don't have enough capacity. We'd really like to do that, but we don't know how to bring that to life and really make that happen. So how do you get to that wraparound student support model from somebody that raises their hand and says, I'm interested in this degree at Rio Salado to now I'm walking across the stage? How do we do that? And I know that may sound like a silly question, but it's a gap that I see and hear almost with every school that I talk to.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference. We'll see you there. Calling all higher ed marketing and enrollment management professionals. Hear, hear. The Insights EDU conference is back. This is your chance to level up your marketing and enrollment management strategies, and the EdUp Experience podcast will be there once again. Join us at the Ritz-Carlton, New Orleans, February 12th through 14th for an unforgettable conference. Registration is now open with early bird pricing.
Outstanding.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Are you enjoying the conversation so far? Good, I hope so. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early before anybody else and ad-free, so you don't have to hear my voice during these ads? And did you also know that you could get extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. So go to edupexperience.com, that's EDUP experience.com, and become a subscriber today. First, you got to sign up to our free email newsletter, and then you'll find out how to become a subscriber. Again, go to edupexperience.com.
Yeah, Jody, I think it's I think at the heart of that question, one piece of it that I loved was, how do you identify what students really need? Because honestly, I think all institutions actually struggle with that. From its at least one lens. From the lens of when we have students drop out early in a course, we struggle to get any information back from them. So we don't really know what went wrong for them, right? We try. We try really hard. We try calling students. We ask them, can you just share with us what would have made a difference? And when we can reach them, sadly, it's often life issues, right? And we all know that those are just, growing and growing and growing. But I think that is a key piece, is if we can find, and so I guess one of the things I'll say is that we do is we're relentless in continuous improvement, right? And we're relentless in our pursuit of learning and understanding what are the barriers, right? And then we've created a culture, and we foster this culture with great intentionality, both a culture of really caring about our students, but also being innovative. And that's a lot, right? Because that word is, it's a buzzword, whatever. But when you're really at the heart of trying to be innovative, it begins with empathy, right? Needing to understand another person's experience so that you can then be innovative in how you approach what do they actually need. So part of that is that culture piece, and really allowing people the flexibility to be innovative, which means they're going to fail, which means we're going to try things. And how do you also keep those people encouraged when they try something? They put so much time and effort into reaching students this way or supporting students with this. I mean, we've tried a lot of stuff that doesn't work, but that's how we keep learning to get to what does work. I'll give you a different example. We know that, how do you support, you have 40,000 students, 25,000 of them online roughly. And we know we have some pretty significant rates of food insecurity. Does it make sense for us to have a food pantry where we don't have students? No, not really. It really doesn't. So we started, I asked our team, like, hey, I won't name any names, but, let's reach out to this company and see, hey, could they partner with us? Da, da, da. So through that exploration, we ended up partnering with an organization called Full Cart. And this is an organization that basically does food boxes like a HelloFresh type of food delivery, right? With all the ingredients and, and instructions for meal prep, but they do it at a very low cost for people in need. So what we've done, so just through this exploration, trial and error, we now have this partnership where we actually purchase kind of cards for our students. So wherever they are, we can just give them a code. They can go online, put in their residence, and have a box that has I need to look it up. I think it's each box has 125 servings in it. And so that's how we then support that food insecurity. And then what's super cool, sorry, now I'm just going again, but super cool is we have a sustainable foods program here. And so we have actually, even though it looks like it's all concrete around our college, we actually have a garden and we have a cafe. And so our cafe chef was working with Full Cart to actually say, here's some things you could add in, because like fresh vegetables is not part of the packaging, right? So if you can then go get, a tomato and a pepper, and here's what you do with it, right? So bringing some of that extra health side into students. So anyway, so I went a little off on that one, sorry, but it's another one of my passion areas, because I think it's amazing that as you think about that student journey, the number one thing is keep listening to our students the best we can. Like, that's how you know what they need, right? I mean, we look at our data, of course, we look at surveys and all of it, but when we can hear from our students, right? And we work really hard closely with our students to listen to them and get our student leaders to help other students share what's needed. And then we just refuse to stay stagnant. We refuse to say this worked 20 years ago, so we're just going to keep doing it. Refuse, right? Because then you're not meeting the needs. You're not removing today's barriers. You're still removing the barriers from 20 years ago.
I just realized, Kate, I was reading something. No, I was listening to you, and then I was realizing that I'm following you across the country. And I went, wait a minute. I just talked to somebody at Hobart and William Smith colleges. And then like a week later, I talked to the president Monroe Community College in Rochester.
Yep.
And now I got to you, and you've been in all those places.
Yes.
And
Yep.
and then I started reading your information, and I knew this because I do some very light research before I do these episodes. But your degrees are in mathematics,
Yes.
and
Woo!
there's
I
a
love
lot of
math. Let's give it
I
up for
mean,
math. Come on.
who doesn't love math? Me. I mean, everybody else loves it. No,
Yeah.
um, it's I don't think it's ever been more important in higher ed than it is today. Not that it's been less important, but it surely has had a lot of eyeballs. The math has a lot of eyes looking at it right now. The financials, how you're managing an institution. We see closures, we see declines,
Yeah.
we see cuts, we see all these very serious things happening. And, part of the rhetoric out there is, well, somebody's not watching the math, or maybe the presidents don't know the financial side of higher education as well as they should because they haven't been in big businesses, or maybe they don't have a background in mathematics. Maybe like you, they came up through an academic pipeline without the mathematics background. Maybe they have a history background, and then you get thrown in to a $100 million budget, a $50 million budget, whatever it is, and you have to figure out all the ins and outs. How helpful has that background in mathematics been to you? And how, I guess,
Sorry, Joe, I'm laughing because your real question should be, and how frustrating has it been for your CFOs? But
yeah, well,
anyways, sorry.
I bet that is a little frustrating for the CFO.
It is.
But it's important right now.
Yeah.
The dollars and
Yeah.
the cents and the communities are watching ever more closely than before. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think one of the changes that, I don't know, it's not necessarily a change, but as shared governance models continue to morph in higher education, I think more and more schools are working hard to be more and more transparent around their finances, around their budgets, et cetera. And I think that's actually really important, and a piece that if it's not happening at an institution, it needs to be happening. Because as budgets then are shrinking, as things are getting tighter, you need people to understand what's going on, because then they can be a partner in helping to figure out, well, what are we going to not do so we can shift our limited resources? What is most important for our students? What is going to have the greatest impact? But if people don't understand the finances across the institution, it's easy for institution members to become suspicious. So I'll give you an example, because I spent a lot of my career in community college, and I remember being like, we have to cut the budget, but we're building a new building. And so as a faculty member, I was like, and in mathematics, I was like, what are you talking about? You're all full of it, right? It's easy to think that, not until you learn. So there's certain monies that can only be used for certain things, right? So I think it's really important as a leader to really ensure that you're educating your college community, because then then you really can build that. Let's work together to solve this budget crisis, and let's do it. I'll tell you, when I first got to Rio, this was an amazing moment for me. I stepped in as the vice president of academic affairs, and and the finance people said, you got to cut 2 million from your budget just from academic affairs.
Yikes!
Like, I was like, lesson learned.
Welcome to the school.
Yeah, lesson learned. Like, ask about the budget before you take a job. um, so, um, so I pulled all of academic affairs together, and it was very large, the way the college was structured. And I just said, look, here's where we're at. Here's what we need to do. I am asking each of you to just honestly reflect, look across your areas, talk to your teams, and come back with where might we be able to cut, save money. So we cut those 2 millions, didn't lose a person. People got very creative, but we did it as a team. So that's kind of my mini example of, I think, the same thing as an institution. And maybe that sounds Pollyanna to people listening, but it's just our reality. So so I'm sharing it, even though it does sound a little Pollyannish. It's not, and it's not without like and frustrations and all that's in there too. But we did it, right? And so I will back to the question about, has math been helpful? Absolutely. I think any CEO needs to every higher ed CEO has had at least a budgeting class or something, right? But they need to really dig in and know their finances. Because why I made the joke about frustrating my CFO is because I'm not a finance person. I'm a numbers person. So the way finance people talk about budgets and do accounting and everything, I can look at the numbers and be like, this is not right, or this or that. And then we have to fight it out a little bit, not fight it out, but strongly discuss it out, maybe. and in the end, we understand that we're actually saying the same thing to each other. But because I do it as a mathematician, that does not resonate with how they're doing it, right? And so that's where, we joke about it now, because it's just, I'm like, listen, I know I'm not using your language, but just follow me on the numbers. And that's kind of how we work through that. That was a long answer. I'm so sorry, because there's really other things that I'm so excited to talk about with you, and that was a really long answer, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's good, Jody. I'm going to make sure you get enough of your questions in.
Gosh, I want to go back to the bachelor's degree, especially for a community college. That was one of the things when I learned that about you when we met a couple months ago. It just kind of blew my mind, because I hadn't heard of a community college doing that before. And you mentioned earlier, one of the core missions principles, I forget what word exactly that you use, but for Rio Salado, it's about access, right? And to me, when I heard that you were going down the path of the 4-year degree, access made all the sense in the world to me, of you're just providing your students with another pathway. So I'm just curious, because I don't know, and so there might be other people listening to this that maybe have a similar question. How common is that for community colleges to offer a bachelor's degree or be going down that path? Is that a common offering now, or
it's becoming more and more common? And I don't have the numbers, I'm so sorry, Jody, but there's a community college baccalaureate association, CCBA. So
Okay.
Anybody who's listening, they will have all the stats on that, and they're a great resource for colleges. So it's I love it, because when you dig in, it can be interpreted so many different ways, but when you dig in, it really is giving people who were not going to get a bachelor's degree an opportunity to get one. It's not pulling from anyone else. It's not, right? It is really creating a new access point to higher wages for the rest of their lives, right? And so for their families, they benefit, the community benefits. So can I double back on all the different types of students we serve, or do you want to talk about something else?
You can triple back. You can
okay, all right. Because I really wanted to. I'll try to make it really condensed. But in case there's anybody listening who would be interested in working on this with me, I am very intrigued by the fact that when you look at IPEDS, the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, right? Like that's kind of the holy grail of where people go to look at metrics on colleges. That system was built based on the 4-year model, right? It was not built on community colleges. So I appreciate some of the changes over the years and the work to understand that this doesn't really represent, first-time, full-time, fall entering students is very limited. For Rio Salado College, that is less than 1% of our student population, less than 1%, and that's what people see. So in that mix, something I was reading about some, and just my own real deep interest is identifying the percentage of students who come to community colleges across the country, are taking credit-bearing classes, but are not there to get a degree or a certificate or a badge at all. They are coming for their own reasons. There's a researcher by the name of Peter Barr who's done some studies in this across the colleges in California, really trying to put together, is there patterns in what the student population is doing? I think one of the studies, was 2013. Forgive me if I'm getting that wrong. But he identified that was the largest incoming percentage of new students were these, at one point they were termed drop-in students, and they were termed skills builders. Sometimes they're referred to as supplemental students, right? The students that are just taking a class or two, nobody really measures them. Nobody tracks them. They're not counted in our metrics. And it's a huge part of what community colleges do. So my call out to anybody listening is, if you're interested in working on this, we've started trying to track that student population at Rio Salado College, find out why they're coming. Are they here for 1, 2, 3 classes, and track their success, right? And so now we've created our own dashboards, and we're, because my goal is, once we can get better at doing it and more sophisticated, I'd like to see us do it across the country and have that a part of the metrics that community colleges are measured on, because and I really want to know, are we serving those students well, right? Like, I mean, it's a lot of students. At some colleges, it's 15%. At some, it's 70%. I mean, it's a lot of students. We should know, are we serving them well? Are they getting what they need? And how do we serve them better as well? Okay, thank you for letting me put that out.
Yeah,
Contact me if you're interested.
No, I want to add to that, because this is I think a big issue for anybody that serves a modern learner. Somebody who is, look, if you're measuring FTFTF, first time full-time freshman, you are measuring a statistic of an incoming, primarily 18-year-old who takes a 16-week academic term, goes into their second academic term, and persists to that third, retention to third term. And that's how that's how IPEDS measures the success rate for first-time freshmen coming back for the second year, basically, or they're coming back for their sophomore year. Now you're in a modern learner, you're an adult student, you got 2 kids at home. Maybe you're taking 6-week classes at a community college. There isn't even 16-week academic terms. Maybe it's a 16-week academic term, broken into 2 8-week classes, or you have non-standard term, which many colleges have, which has a completely different financial aid model. And those students, even when successful, don't go into the percentages of success. And so therefore, a community college could be completing its mission in educating the community and have it show up on Google when somebody does a search and have it say 0% graduation rate or 0% completion, because those students that they're finishing off aren't actually first-time, full-time freshmen. It's a 68-year-old coming back to learn a skill in HVAC.
You got it.
I mean, that's how to just kind of explain it for the masses. And I talk about this actually on a bunch of my podcasts, because it's a maddening statistic, especially if you're a PLA or a CPL student. If you've got credit for prior learning, you're coming in from somewhere else, and your second stop is Rio Salado, and you're coming in with 37 credits, you won't show up in the measurement of success because you don't count in that way. I mean, that's basically what you've said.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And to take that even one step further, Joe, I love everything you said. And then if you look at, I think it was the World Economic Forum put out a report that within 5 years, 50% of all working adults will need to be upskilled within 5 years, right? So if we look at the pace of learning and transition and how often this is going to start happening, and we see, we haven't even touched on AI yet, right? And how that's going to impact the future of higher education. Those are all that student population. I mean, think about the masses of people that will need that short-term, 2 classes, skills-based, learning, and none of that is in any of our metrics, right? So it's a very powerful piece that I'm hoping I'm really interested. I just got to make time, Joe. I got to make a little more time. I need like 30-hour days so that we can really work on that. And that's why I put the call out, because I would love to find some partners who are doing any work in this space and see if we can start to make a more sophisticated model that we could share out, because it's hard to do. It's definitely hard to do. We have the advantage of our online learners. We get to have them in an online system where we can ask them. Because it goes beyond questions on a typical application, right? So
and just to put a fine point on it, if you have somebody from the community, because you're a community college, and their only goal is to take a class to get one skill over 6 weeks, and they complete, and they will never come back, have you have you completed your mission? Is that success? And there are some that say no, but have no basis for it. To that student, they feel success. To the community college, they feel success. But somebody else looking from the outside doesn't see it.
Right. And they may get a pay increase because of that training, right? Or they may get a new job, or they may get a promotion. That is huge, right? That is hugely successful, right? They came, they actually managed to get through all of the processes that we have in place, right, to get enrolled. They completed all the coursework successfully, and then they had a purpose for doing that, and they accomplished that purpose. Of course, that's success. I think what happens is that student body, and that's why I'm really interested in figuring out how do we do this systemically, right, to track these students, to know what they're coming for and why, so we can say this is successful or not successful. And the reason to know what's not successful is so we can get better at it, right? But I think they get conflated in some of those national conversations with, so many students are not completing. Right. So they start courses and they drop out. They go one semester and they drop out. They were registered in a degree program, so they didn't finish. We're not doing, and hey, I'm not going to defend that. Like we do need to get better with all of those learners, right? We work really hard at it, and we will just never stop working hard at supporting them and helping them get to their goals. But I think that's why sometimes it's looked at as not successful, because they're just conflating those two. And that's why, to me, it's so important if we can actually define this population, find ways to track them, and report out on what is successful or not successful.
Perhaps you'll have a partner in education dynamics. And Jody,
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
Come on, bring it, Jody.
Let's partner up, Kate.
Jody, what
I
did you
love
think
it.
of this first co-hosting gig of yours here?
I loved it, although I messed up in the first 5 seconds, but it's such is life, right? You learn and you don't make that mistake again.
Okay, but wait, Jody, I'm just going to comment on that if I can.
Yes.
You did that. You messed up, and our wonderful, amazing, off-the-charts host says you made the number one mistake. So I'm not sure. I'm not so sure that he didn't set you up for that.
Right. Yeah.
Because maybe he could have said beforehand, don't do that.
Hazing, no problem. We never prepare for these.
I know, right? But that's the authenticity.
Sorry,
of it,
Joe.
right? Like you said, you used the word organic. This feels and definitely lives up to authentic and organic, which is real life,
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Can I just say thank you to both of you so much. It's wonderful that you do this. It's wonderful that you do this.
I got to outro you first, but let me get Jody.
Okay.
She's Dr. Jody Blanco. She is I forgot her title. She's the Vice President of Enrollment Management Consulting at Education Dynamics. Jody, I would love to have you back again.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I would love to be back, and I will use 5 seconds for a shameless plug for the Insights EDU conference in New Orleans, 2025, February. Hosted by Education Dynamics, all things marketing, enrollment, and so much more. Please come for 3 days of crawfish and beignets and all sorts of wonderful higher ed stuff too.
And I'll be there podcasting live.
And Joe will be there. So everybody has to come now.
And let me just add something. And this is Education Dynamics and the work they do to serve, to give schools what they need to recruit an adult student, a modern learner, is second to none. And if you are trying to recruit more adult students and you're trying to do it from a traditional context, it will never work. You have to do it completely different. So you need different perspective, and that's where the work you guys do is so important, why I support it so passionately. So I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Joe.
Jody, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, after I outro her, she could say anything she wants. She's Dr. Kate Smith. She's your guest today, president of Rio Salado College. Kate, did you have a good time today?
This was fantastic. Everybody listening, please give it up for Joe for being steadfast in this podcast and bringing really important and all the good things going on that we need to be talking more about what's going right and what are the amazing stories. Thank you so much, Joe. You're amazing. Thank you, Jody. I can't wait till the next time I see you.
Ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen, you've just upped.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there. Higher education is evolving. And if you're in marketing and enrollment management, then you need to be at the Insights EDU conference.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Insights EDU 2025 is happening February 12 through 14 in New Orleans, Louisiana. This is your chance to explore the latest trends in higher education and discover new and innovative strategies to level up your program marketing and enrollment. Hear from some of the best speakers in the industry, from companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and more. Registration is now open, so secure your spot while early bird pricing is still available.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Did you enjoy that conversation? I hope you did. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early on and ad-free? And you can also hear extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. Did you know that? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com to subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, that's edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.